Hello and welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me tonight is my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyle.
And tonight we're taking a look at a brand new Russian sci-fi slash horror called Sputnik. It's one of those movies that probably wouldn't have got a cinematic release in Australia if it wasn't for the fact of COVID-19 forcing all of the blockbusters out of cinemas. But this is a great little film directed by Igor Abramenko, and it's a film that takes a look at what happens after a space mission in the 80s comes back and there's only one survivor, a kind of star-studded cosmonaut called Konstantin Vereshenkodov, played by Peter Fyodorodov. And I'm sorry if I'm murdering these Russian names, but they're, yeah. So he comes back and there is something not right with him. So the colonel, played by Fedor Bondarchuk, brings in a doctor called Tatiana Kilmova, played by Oksana Akshina, to come in and investigate what is happening with this man. And what they find out is very, very horrific. So, mate, I've been a little bit of a fan of Russian cinema for a while now because a few years ago, discovered that Russia brings out these big blockbuster movies that we don't get to see here in Australia, but they're normally pretty decent films. So I was kind of excited to see this one, but what did you think of Sputnik?
Yeah, I haven't really watched many like Russian-made blockbusters. After hearing what you had said about them, I was really kind of interested to see where this one went, and I guess how it would differ from typical American alien science fiction films that what I've gotten used to coming out of Hollywood. This one, it really grabbed me at the start. I thought it was really interesting and really well made. It had a really strong start, but I thought about halfway it kind of lost me, and I ended up feeling that it just felt kind of like a lot of other Hollywood movies, at least from the halfway point on. It felt like it didn't really know, whether maybe by design it was actually trying to be kind of like a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
It did have kind of Christopher Nolan feel to it, the music and sound design and the visuals and cinematography. It really did kind of have a distinctly familiar feel to it. I was interested in the story, the idea of this cosmonaut, this kind of a story told from a Russian perspective. But just in the end, I felt that it just seemed something that I'd kind of seen before a million times in regular Hollywood films. But what did you think of this film in particular, dude?
Yeah, like I said, I've always been a bit of a fan of these Russian blockbusters because I've loved movies like Metro and August 8th, because what they do is they take what's been happening in Hollywood and they normally put a really good slant on it. August 8th was a movie that is what Transformers should have been. It was a huge Michael Bay-esque robot movie, but it had a decent storyline and really good acting in it. The same with Metro. It was the story of a train trapped underground after a terrorist attack, and it was the kind of movie that you'd put Bruce Willis in it, but it had an Oscar-winning script. It's just such a weird mix, and I was expecting the same thing this time around, and I guess I thought that with this movie, Sputnik, they were really trying to capture that golden age of sci-fi that we had with movies like Alien and stuff like that. And for the most part, it worked. But then, yeah, I agree with you. It kind of felt like halfway through, it started to bring in some of those Hollywood cliches. But I think the one thing that it did a lot better than a lot of the modern day sci-fis was that it did go back and capture what those 80s directors were doing, and it had these really kind of intense shots where it was almost Alfred Hitchcock style with the way that it set up that our main character was in danger and why she was in danger, but they didn't have to go into a whole explanation of it. I thought that really worked. I thought that was very Ridley Scott in a sense. But yeah, it did. It kind of fell away towards the end, and I don't know whether it was because they couldn't come up with a decent ending or what, but it felt like it lost a lot of the stuff that it had early on in the film.
Yeah, like the setup was interesting. The cosmonaut during the Cold War has become infected by this alien symbiote parasite sort of thing, like Venom.
Yeah.
From Marvel. Which, it's latched itself onto him, and this disgraced doctor psychologist who she herself has kind of destroyed her own career because she's a person that's willing to take risks for the sake of her patients and think outside the box as far as their treatment goes. She's brought in to help find a way to investigate the situation, understand what's happening, and to hopefully find a way to separate this the cosmonaut from the alien. I really love I love Men in Black, just as an action film, but even more I like the idea of this the secret government organizations and investigation of UFOs and aliens in a completely I like them approaching that in a completely straight-faced and serious way.
Yeah.
I know the show, obviously Men in Black was more like a comedy, but I know the show Project Blue Book did that recently from the American perspective during the Cold War.
Yeah.
And I was really interested in the idea of seeing things like this kind of time and this kind of subject from a Russian perspective at the height of the Cold War with the KGB and even stronger authoritarian government backing. But sadly at the end of the movie, as far as that goes, the movie just felt like any other kind of alien film. It had no real in Cold War Russia feel to it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it might have been maybe because this movie it had kind of a government backing that they couldn't really go too far in such a controversial direction.
Yeah, I did wonder if they would go down that same path as what they did with Chernobyl, the miniseries, where that was very much like that. I also kind of wonder whether this movie's held back a little bit by the fact that it was based on a short film that the director made 3 years earlier called The Passenger, and I kind of wondered whether or not that idea was pitched of, let's widen the short movie and make it a feature, and whether or not there wasn't quite enough legs on the project to actually go to a fully fledged feature, because it is a long feature too.
Yeah. That's always a problem. When you're going to stretch short film out to 2 hours, you've got to really figure out a way to make that work. And if you completely there's the TV series of Evil Dead that was on recently, Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
That was something that, a lot of Evil Dead fans, they love that, but I could see watching it, it was the story of this entire season is something that's based off of a planned fourth movie, and instead you've now stretched it for an entire series, and it just isn't enough to go around,
Yeah.
I kind of had that movie does kind of have that feel here, and I'm guessing that might be where the problems in the film's second half comes from. Maybe the filmmakers didn't quite know where to go with it.
Yeah.
So what they came up with wasn't quite as interesting as what started off the film.
Yeah, I think going into it as well, I kind of expected from what I'd seen of the shorts of it and the a few scenes that I'd seen that it was going to be a little bit like Gareth Edwards' Monsters, where it was like an alien tale told on a really kind of low budget. But it wasn't like that. I think Sputnik probably would have had a bigger budget than Monsters, but it felt like at times that it was just, it was being stretched and that the story wasn't there to go with it. there was a lot of things in the film, like story-wise, where it was kind of mentioned a couple of times and then not mentioned again as well. At times it almost felt like it was supposed to be the pilot for a new television series like Stranger Things or something like that, and it didn't go into that territory. But I have to ask, what did you think of the creature effects? Because I know that's something that you love looking at.
Yeah, I love that. That's something I really do have to give the movie a lot of credit for that. The special, you kind of think, oh, well, this movie's not made in Hollywood. You think that the CGI and the special effects aren't really going to be up to snuff. But, yeah, I thought that CGI and the monster effects in the film were top-notch. Like, the thing, it looks physical, even though it's like the CGI, this fake creation, it looks like a physical, solid object. It really does look really good. And there is, not giving too much away or anything, but there is quite a lot of gore in this film, and that stuff, I love that in my horror films and, alien movies, stuff like that, and, yeah, that stuff all looked just really amazing, like that, there's a lot of, really good eye candy in this film. What did you think?
Yeah, I was the same. I thought that was really good. I thought that's what gave it its Ridley Scott kind of feel. And that didn't surprise me, to be honest, because the special effects in some of the Russian movies that I've watched over the years have been like that. I mean, if you remember back to Night Watch and what the special effects look like in that, and then, August 8th, the movie I talked about before, you would swear that the robots were real. But the special effects in August 8th are equal to, Michael Bay's Transformers. It's such a weird subculture because these movies get made in Russia and they come out through the big distributors, the same distributors as what we have. Universal, 20th Century Fox, Sony, but they don't get shown outside that Balkan kind of area. You don't get to see them anywhere else unless you kind of hunt them down. So, yeah, it's so strange. I would love for there to be a cinema that opens up here in Melbourne that just showed these Russian blockbusters, because I reckon I'd be heading along quite often to go and have a look at them, because they are generally really interesting films to check out. Yeah,
that's I actually asked you, after I watched this one, if there was some sort of a Russian film festival that you know of.
Yeah, there is.
Up. Yeah, because that's I'd be interested in checking out some myself. It's good to open your horizons to new movies, and it's even though this one I thought it was a little bit of letdown at times, just to see, it's always great to see movies that are made from a completely different culture.
Yeah, and I really, really want to see the two of the stars of this movie kind of make that crossover into American cinema as well. I know we've seen it in the past with people like Noomi Rapace making that switch from Scandinavian cinema to American cinema. But I would really like to see Oksana Akshina make that transfer, because I was talking to a friend of mine who's Russian recently, and he was saying that every movie she makes in Russia is brilliant. She's the equivalent of what Gail Gardeau and that is to American cinema. I also thought it'd be really interesting to see what Peter Fyodorov could do as well in an American film, because for anyone that's kind of watched Farscape, he had that kind of John Crichton feel to him. Even though what was happening to him was horrific, he was likable, and even when he was being standoffish, he was the kind of, I don't know, he kind of reminded me of Tom Cruise a little bit, if you could imagine Tom Cruise in that role.
Yeah. Kind of this young, handsome, charismatic persona. And I agree. The two leads in particular, I thought they both did a great job. And, Tatiana's character was really interesting, as well as, I did like seeing a lot of the characters in the movie. They, you could go into it, perceiving them one way, and towards the end of the movie, that you kind of have a completely different feel for them.
Yeah.
Even characters that you go into the movie, I for the life of me I wouldn't be able to pronounce the character's name, but the doctor that's already there investigating the cosmonaut and this whole situation before Tatiana arrives, you hate him at the start. Like, he just seems like this prick that's trying to get win awards for what he's doing and what he's going to be discovering. But yeah, then as the movie goes on, you end up liking him.
Yep.
And like that, I thought was really good. Like, even though towards the end of the movie, like the actual plot and some of the other like little character things, I thought kind of weren't really developed as well as I think they could be. I did like that, the way that some of the characters flipped around, that you like this character, then you start disliking them, you dislike this character, then you start liking them. There was a few other things like in the plot that I thought, as you say, didn't really go anywhere. There's this whole like subplot involving the son of the cosmonaut, being at the orphanage, and there's a whole lot of like flashes to this kid in an orphanage, and at the last minute there's a plot twist which I don't think it really serves any purpose at all. Like, I don't know if I missed something or if there's some sort of like cultural subtext there that I'm not really seeing, but yeah, just things like that. It just I thought let the movie down a bit.
Yeah, that's what I was hinting at before. That was the subplot that I was hinting at that doesn't go anywhere, and it's one of those things that I kind of wonder whether that was put in there to try and to stretch the film out from a short film, where it's like at some writers' meeting they've been sitting around saying, okay, how do we stretch this out? Oh, what if we make it that the cosmonaut actually has a son that's in an orphanage? And then, like, it gets forgotten about when they're working on the rest of the movie because they're cutting and pasting stuff from the short film. It was kind of like that. But I also wonder, with like what you said about the Doctor, whether that is almost a Russian cultural thing, because Stellan Skarsgård's character in Chernobyl was exactly the same. Where when the actual Chernobyl disaster first happens in the miniseries, he comes across like he's a really mean guy that doesn't really care what's happened here. Like, we need to cover this up kind of thing. And then you learn that he does have a heart, and the reason that he's acting like that is he can't be seen to have a weakness in front of like Gorbachev and people like that. So yeah, I kind of wondered whether that is a Russian cultural thing where someone who's in that kind of position does have to have that kind of persona, even though they are a little bit softer on the inside.
Yeah, I guess Tatiana was kind of like that as well. She she really is like this cold character, this cold personality for most of it. But it's like as the movie goes on, you see like the real human side to her, which it definitely lends something to Oksana's talents as an actress to be able to bring that out. I guess just the overall kind of little problems that I had with the movie, like the plot, I guess. I mean, like, whether it's an American movie or a Russian movie, the idea of like the military wanting to use aliens or dinosaurs or zombies or something as a weapon, like, that's something that I feel has been done to death so many times that it's just not interesting anymore.
Yeah.
And so, like, stuff like that really kind of cheapens a film when like, there's so much more potential to your movie, and you go for something that Jurassic World did, you know?
Yeah. I would like to see where this director goes in future, because I did see this movie as the kind of film that like a Ridley Scott or a James Cameron made very early on in their career, and given that this director hasn't got a lot of movies under his belt, I'm thinking that he's a fairly youngish director, so I'd kind of like to see where he could go, and I'd like to see what he could do if he was given like a Hollywood film with a like sizable kind of budget behind it, to see what he could do with that as well. So yeah, there's definitely more pluses with this movie than negatives.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I'd like to see what he could do as well. Hopefully it's not like another remake of this, an American remake of this same idea. That most of his filmography is this same story being retold. So
yeah,
no, it'd be interesting to see what comes from them
definitely
in the future.
So I guess to wrap up, what are you going to give this 1 out of 5?
I'm going to give this 3 out of 5. Like I said, story-wise, I thought it was kind of weaker in the second half, but just how well put together the entire film is otherwise, and the performances and the special effects, which really for a horror film, that's really what you're coming for. That it really did deliver in spades as far as that's concerned. So 3 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I think I liked it a little bit better than you. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. I love the atmosphere that's created in this film. I love the two leads in this as well. I think they're both brilliant, and it's one of those movies that I hope is a gateway to the US for a few of these, the filmmaker and 2 of the actors, because I would really like to see what they could do if they got to America. But that is it for this episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy. Kyle gave Sputnik 3 stars, and I gave it 4 stars. But go and check it out. Widen your horizon a little bit. Go and see what you think of some Russian blockbuster cinema. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I've been Kyle.
And we'll be back very, very soon with another episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy.